Alright guys, today's project on the Jeep is probably going to be pulling the transmission pan, draining the fluid. I might have to do a couple of things because when you get water in the transmission like that, it gets filled in the torque converter. It'll be also in this little cooler here, this little transmission cooler up here at the front. So that's going to have water and nasty coolant in there. So I'll have to figure out how to take that out, which it isn't too bad. It's just you got to flush all the lines too. Getting water in the transmission is really just a pain. I guess it's not going to be as bad as if I got it in the motor. I honestly think that the motor actually ingested a little bit, but obviously it wasn't enough to cause any major issues. Just a little bit of mist won't hurt, but if it sucks up any major volume of water, you can definitely end up destroying connecting rods and stuff like that. Just because water doesn't compress, it's got to go somewhere, and usually it's not going to go out the engine, and it'll just blow up inside. So we got lucky on that. I'm gonna try to stay out of the water next time, do a little bit better job. But it is fun playing in the mud. Alrighty guys, we're looking at the transmission under here. This is going to be a slice of cake. I'm really happy that there's nothing in the way of the transmission. It's so often that you've got one of these exhaust pipes that you see around like the bottom of the that oil pan there. It's so often that it's actually underneath or in the way of the transmission pan. So that's nice for the transmission pan. Hopefully I never have to do anything with the oil pan, because that's gonna suck. Guys, this is the fluid coming out. It just looks like Pepto-Bismol. It's just nasty, and it was full. There was a lot of water in there. So I'm glad I changed it. Only time will tell if putting new training fluid in there is what destroys it, or if it just blows itself up anyways, like it was already on its last leg. These transmissions they're not the ones that they throw in the Jeep Cherokees with the 4 liters, the XJs. Those were some of those automatics were Japanese transmissions. They were very good. Sadly, these transmissions are just not as good, but we'll see what happens. Alright, let's do a little damage assessment. See what actually ended up in the bottom of this pan. So, based on what I can see, this is just some straight up mud. But it's also, there's film and clutch material on the bottom. And this is actually a magnet, but if I rub my finger in it, it's just covered in, that's just material out of the transmission, clutch material, stuff like that. The magnet's there to keep all that trash from recirculating, but the bad thing is there's a lot of it, and this transmission does have some age. So my only real hope is that it doesn't tear itself apart after I get done with this. But we'll see what happens. All right, it's a new day, guys. I'm here working on the Jeep, and I went and bought 2 transmission filters, transmission fluid. I'm gonna do a flush. I really don't want to, but I don't know of any other way to actually get all the fluid out. I mean, you can do drain and fill, stuff like that. And I have an extra filter kit and gasket and everything if I want to do that. But we're gonna just do the flush. I bought a 5-gallon bucket, got some hoses, stuff like that. We'll try that out. See if it works. I'll show you what's going on underneath, and then we'll get on to the flush. So I've got the pan all nice and clean. Got the underside, I'll dry it off for the most part.
try to, let it drip dry overnight, drip out as much of that nasty stuff, water tainted trans fluid as I could. And I'm gonna put the filter back on, a new one, and fill it back out with trans fluid, and then we'll do the flush.
One other important thing I wanted to bring up, I've just finished getting the drain pan on, everything's tightened down, ready to go, I'm going to show you here in just a second that a lot of these stock transmission coolers that you can see right here, this is the stock trans cooler. A lot of those trans coolers actually loop through the radiator. And if you're changing a transmission, you had a transmission go bad, like in this case I've got water in it, it's you can't forget to actually flush that piece out. What I'm going to do is it's personal opinion, but I don't think you get the best flow going through the radiator. The aftermarket and some of these stock trans coolers, you can get pretty decent flow or fluid pressure. So I'm actually I've got the hoses to do it and clamps. I'm just going to bypass the radiator. I just don't feel like messing with that. And to be honest, the trans is going to stay plenty cool just running through the stock radiator. I want to show you real quick all that bucket that's just straight up trans fluid, but it's all nasty and milky because that's what I got out of the transmission. What's in the transmission now is pretty much red. There's a slight little tint to it, but nothing that it was. And the Jeep drives just fine, so only time will tell if it stands up. Hey guys, just a little recap on what we did today. So changed the transcooler lines, rerouted those, bypassed the radiator, changed the trans fluid. That was kind of a mess. I goofed up at one part where I had the output and input lines mixed up, and it just I ended up sucking up some more just watery trans fluid. So that meant I had to go back to the store twice to clean it out more and more. And what's in there right now is pretty good. I'll probably clean it out here in a couple weeks and get it just perfect, and then I'll stay away from the water. So today's been pretty successful. I'm happy about that. And tomorrow we'll find something new to work on. See you guys later.